my extreme pleasure to introduce to you Rey and Claire Martinez and their nephew/son, Jerry Martinez. The Martinez family is definitely Durango natives. Thank you, Claire. Mr. Martinez, Claire was my Spanish teacher in 7th and 8th grade. Rey was my freshman football coach, and I'm greatly indebted to both of them because Claire really taught us how to enunciate. And I had quite a career in television stuff, pronouncing a lot of foreign names, and it was my 7th and 8th grade Spanish class that you taught that really helped me out, and the way you taught us how to pronounce basically every letter in a word carried on and helped me a lot in my career. And Rey, you had a tremendous impact as well. You're the one who made it very clear that I was never cut out to be a football player. Ever. I'm a skier. I like the idea of running away from the people. So anyway, let's get started on this story, because this is truly an amazing story of two brothers, but really a whole family. And thank you, Jerry, for being here as well to help us facilitate this. But let's start. Just tell us a little bit about your parents and your brothers and sisters.
I'm Rey Martinez, the eldest of the two Smothers brothers here. And, my dad was Matt Martinez, and he worked about 44 years on the railroad. And then my mom, of course, they were married their whole lifetime. My dad died in 1980, and my mom died, what year did she?
1971.
1971. Thanks, Jerry. My mom was looking at Durango Herald one day, and she saw Durango High School needs a Spanish teacher. So she immediately called Hoyt Miller. Many of you knew Hoyt Miller. And so he asked her if I had a master's degree, and she said, "Oh, yes."
Not say what a master's in what, but
she didn't. She had no idea what a master's compared to a BA or a doctorate was. Anyway, he asked her if I had a master's, and she said yes. And he said I'd like to meet with him. So she arranged a meeting for us. And he said, "Can you start working Monday?" I said, "Sure." So I had to resign from another position and came to Durango. And I taught Spanish for 10 years here. It was a combination of Spanish 1, 2, and 3. And it got kind of mixed up now and then. But
You know, we have a whole section on the school coming up. Tell us about your brothers and sisters.
there was like 7 of us in total.
Eight.
Eight?
Total.
Okay, sorry, Claire.
That's why I'm in the middle.
A brother that neither one of us ever knew died before we were born, and his name was Eloy Martinez. And our eldest sister was Cecilia Martinez. She was a nurse. And then 2 years later, we had another sister named Josephine, and she was also a nurse. And then I was born. Then Claire was born. Then who's that next?
And Carmen.
Oh yeah, Carmen was sick. Well, she's next anyway. Then we had Matt.
Who's here tonight with his wife, Aunt
here.
Evelyn, and Bill and Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
And then the baby was Max, and he died at about age 7 or 8.
4.
Age 4.
Age 4.
Okay.
He was 4 when he died.
Oh,
And
he was 4 years old, okay.
When you talk about what your dad did for the railroad, to go into that a little bit, tell them what he did for the railroad. It's an amazing story.
He was a hostler. He kept the engines going for the next engineer, which would take the train then to Alamosa, Colorado. And then, so his job primarily was to stoke the furnace in the train.
Put it on the turntable, spin it around, and take the passenger engine to the passenger cars.
Is that right?
And then the other engine that he sent out was the one that got on the turntable and took it out for the freight cars.
And
That was Dad's
I
job.
asked them both, I said, how did Grandpa's, life on the train impact you? So Uncle Ray say, how did it impact you?
Well, he brought a paycheck home once a month.
That's Dad, what did you say?
Well, I have a lot to thank for both of them, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Dad, of course, in addition to the hostler working at the railroad, was a tinner. And some of his suitcases still are at the museum there in the railroad area, the round table area. And then, of course, he built everything out of galvanized sheet metal, which is tin in our speech. And he made bathtubs, he made crosses, he made chimneys. He made about everything that you needed to use out of tin.
And this is one of the engines he took care of. It's the 478, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, and so the 478 is actually down there in the museum today, and we were down there yesterday and got a picture of Ray and Claire with their dad's engine.
At one time, they asked him to build a special stack to make it look like it was really a old engine. Anyway, he accomplished that.
Was that for a movie?
Real well.
Was that for a
Yes,
movie?
that was for a movie, yes.
Okay, yeah, they show a lot of movies with those trains now, okay. What else
He,
you got?
he built almost the whole engine out of sheet metal, which looked just like the 482. And he got this job from Warner Brothers when they first started coming to Durango to make movies. So, and then of course, the deal was that they'd take it out on the mountainside and crash it. That's the reason it was more economical to build it out of sheet metal than it was to wreck a whole engine.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay,
Pretty
I'll
smart.
remember that tip. Yeah. Okay. But tell us about this. This is really where you grew up, isn't it?
275th Street.
Yeah.
We remember this so well because the road, or 5th Street, was like some kind of clay. And then a little later on, they put gravel on it, and that's where we played tackle football. We didn't have the sense to go right around the corner
Where there was
grass. And one of the reasons we didn't go to that grass was there were faucets sticking up, which we had a lot of cuts and bruises on that. I'll never forget the end of Third Avenue going south. It cuts off, and there was a great big guy, Ruben Archuleta, and he got the football and he says, "Okay, guys, tackle me." And there must have been 6 of us. We finally tackled him and broke his leg.
Well, good for you.
I wanted to say that the home didn't look exactly like this when we first moved in. It was a little shack thing, and my dad, with a lot of help, built it up to where it looked pretty decent.
2-story.
He put the second story on and remodeled the porch, and we got it painted, and
And I can vouch for the fact that my grandpa handed that down to especially my dad, because my dad built sheds on sheds on sheds. Or you can no longer get in the shed because they're,
We call those ADUs nowadays.
you're right. Exactly right.
But one thing that's really important, the detail here, that I think it's almost hard to appreciate in these modern times. All 8 of those kids were born in that house, weren't they?
right.
Right.
They were born at home. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
On purpose.
When we started the story, I kind of went to Uncle Ray. I called Uncle Ray and asked Dad, "Where were you guys born?" "Well, I'm not sure." So I called my Aunt Joe, and my Aunt Joe said, the doctor was busy both times when these 2 were born at least. And so a friend of my grandma's came over and helped her deliver them, so.
And what about the other place there? That's your summer place, isn't it?
We owned 6 acres.
We moved to the valleys on the west side.
It's up by Fellers.
is right next door, or actually one place north of the Grange Hall. And my dad had like 11 acres there, and we, of course, grew vegetables.
I just said he had 6 acres. You made it 11.
Well, let's split the difference, 16.
Okay.
Okay. But on our journey yesterday, we went back to that house, and there's Ray and Claire at their house wearing their Durango Native T-shirts, soon to be available at half-price tees. But it was really fun to be there with you, and that was on 5th Street. And, you know, I remember growing up as a kid, too, there was this, you know, I'm just going to be honest with you, people said, oh, you know, you don't want to go south of 6th Street. You know, that's where the Mexicans live. It was a horrible thing that a lot of people in Durango did. And I admire you so much for what, I don't know if you overcame something, but, you know, tell us what it was like to live south of 6th Street and what you experienced.
It wasn't too much fun. Durango High School wasn't very friendly, I didn't think, but that turns out that a lot of the problem was my fault, because I was so proud with a chip on my shoulder, and made some good friends finally, and grew up, and joined the military the summer that I graduated. And that naturally really helped me grow up a lot. Boot camp and Marine Corps.
Dad?
I think that it's a blessing in disguise, because I was very, very shy. I couldn't even look at a girl. And sometimes I had a lot of friends with girlfriends, and they would purposely say, go over and push Cabe's arm, or
Kiss him
bump
or
him
something.
And Paul Koss, one, bless his soul, he's gone now, but he was one of my best buddies. We played football together. He was a sophomore, and I was graduating. But these things were a real good lesson for us to overcome. That's one of the lessons we learned by looking at these things. And I asked Dad one time, I said, well, what do you think about the prejudice? We see it every day in people, even in some of our own friends. And he said, work over it. And that's all he said. And so that gave me the impetus to continue to work.
And we'll get to sports, but that was a part of that, wasn't it? So, but let's talk about when you were kids, because I just love these 2 photos that we dug out of the basement somewhere. Tell us about this. Is that you over there, Claire, in that far picture?
That was my first zipper. She was a little French mutt, and I must have been 3 or 4 years old there. But my mom ran over the dog.
Okay.
It really wasn't her fault, because I should not have had him out there where the 37 Packard was.
Okay.
He's
And
finally confessing this.
on the on the fender of this 37 Packard, which my dad turned into a pickup. Well, he and the welder down at the roundhouse. But I'm there, I don't know how old I could have been there, 6 or 7. And then my younger brother, Matt, and then little Maxie that died when he was 4. We were all taking a picture, but the pictures I have of Max are never with his face up. He's always got his little head down. It was a very sad thing to lose him.
And tell us why your dad turned that into a pickup truck, or a...
That's when we moved from well, we didn't actually move. We left town and lived on in the valley. And when we were at the valley, my mom would say, it's too darn cold up here. I can't wait to get back where we have furnace, gas, and nice and warm. And then when we'd moved to the yellow house, which on 5th Street, she'd say, oh, I wish we were up at the ranch. We had eggs, we had milk, we had cream.
But didn't you told me a story about turning that into a pickup so that you could haul for your hogs?
My dad got a little contract with Gallivan and Haffey Produce, which was at the end of Main Street on the east side, and we would go in and clean the banana room And of course, we'd take half of the bananas and fruit, all kinds of fruits and vegetables. And that was a cleanup for them that they didn't have to pay for. We took the produce, fed it to the hog, and she got to be almost 800 pounds.
Okay. This is a baseball team, right? Tell us about how that baseball team came about.
We made this baseball team with all our friends. Of course, on the left-hand side was Leon Burrows, or one of our coaches, that was with old timers. When we got to the point where we were a little old for old timers, we formed a St. Mark's Marksman, and the Church of St. Mark's Episcopal Church sponsored us. They didn't give us any money, but they just sponsored it for the name. And all of our friends are right there. You can see the pictures of us.
And we were a very good baseball team. We could beat just about anyone, right?
Yeah.
We beat all the old timers that belonged to the Old Timers Association anyway. We were very proud of that team. We had our own little practice field, which was out at Park School, and we were very prideful kids anyway.
Tell them about the time when we played the Durango Indians. Remember? There was a team, Sam Maines, and all those guys played, high school kids.
Probably the Anisis.
Do you remember
Anyways.
that?
What do you want me to say about it, Claire?
That we won.
Oh, yeah. We won that game. It was really tough.
Good job.
Well, one of the places we stopped you today was Sacred Heart Church, that's been a big part of your life. I'd like to hear a little bit about the early days of Sacred Heart.
Our dad helped build that church, but it was across the street from the church that exists now. And he helped build a new church, which was across the street, of course, and that's pretty much it. We attended Sacred Heart all our lives.
There was a group of Italians that had moved into Durango, really beautiful people. And most of them were real good friends of my mom's. And if we happened to be over at their house at 9 o'clock, she'd put us to bed. And if their kids were at our house at around 9, Mom would put them to bed. So it was real good association working between the two families.
Did you ever get mixed up on which kid belonged to which family?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was going to say, you talk about, too, the south side of 6th, and you look back, and even, Brad talks about it, too, that we grew up in this community, and most of, it was mainly Hispanic people on this side of 6th, but the Italians were mixed in, so the Picolis, and, you name it, and so we felt pretty honored. We would actually get invited to the Colombo picnic and stuff like that. So those families integrated and really grew up together, and it was kind of pretty cool.
Well, anybody that didn't include you, it was their loss.
Yeah.
That's my.
Thank you.
Let's talk about school, because this is a huge part of your life, and that's from your yearbook, the picture of Durango High School. And yesterday we also visited Park, and you actually went to 2 elementary schools, didn't you?
Right.
Tell them about that.
Well, town, of course, was Park School. It was about 4 or 5 blocks away from our home on 5th Street. And of course, we would run to work, to school. But the problem that we faced was that they would go to Ray and they would grab him by the collar and he said, "Come on, Claire, what are you doing out here?" And we did the same thing when we went to Central, which is now Mason, up north by the high school. And one day, my 3rd grade teacher, Jeannie Dawson, who was also the principal, I saw her hauling Ray out by the collar or bringing him in. He had his recess at that time. After recess, I took mine. So she brings him into the room, sits him down, and starts calling roll. And she called my name, and I answered from the back, and she looked up, and she said, "Well, who But you couldn't say anymore.
Well, we had a fun time visiting that school. So we got your high school yearbook. So this is Ray. By the way, is that a handsome young man or what? You guys are amazing, very photogenic. The photo we've had of you two with your football outfit, I can't begin to tell you the number of people have talked about that. But so we got your high school yearbook, Ray, and one of the things we took a photo is that sports were huge. So look at these photos here and tell us a little bit about those teams that you played on.
We both played football, and Claire played basketball. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with the ball. But Claire was good. I'll have to say that about him. Something nice about him. Anyway, I played a dumb lineman. Claire was a running back, and I graduated in 1950, and then you graduated in 52, right?
Right.
So,
Who was your coach?
Ken Murphy.
Okay, Coach
Yeah.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got here? Claire, you are the outstanding senior of your class.
1952 was a good year for me. I don't.
In all humility, I would say.
I have to say that I was born with what they call a hydrocele. I can't explain too much more than that, except that it's like a hernia. So I played with that all of high school and 4 years of college.
Now he's bragging.
What I can't understand is that I passed the physicals with flying colors, you know, and same way with college, and
That's because Joe Lloyd's grandpa, the doctor, was one that passed that physical. Sorry, Joe.
but
His grandson is here tonight.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
across the street from that 275th Street, we had a broad jumping pit, high jumping pit, pole vaulting. Of course, we'd pole vault with a 2x4, and Ray and I got the idea of building sand castles one evening, and my dad was calling us, "You better get in here, it's getting dark," you know. And like dummies, we had these great big pieces of glass like that, and we were tearing things apart,
Well, we set
and
those
I
up.
crawled.
We set those up to look like windows in our sand pit. And he unfortunately crawled over the top of one of the glasses, cut his leg real bad.
48 stitches.
Don't forget to tell him that I picked him up bodily and carried him across the street to our house.
You're a good big brother, Ray. You're a good big brother.
Well, I spent about 6 months, I don't know why so long, with a cast from my ankle to my hip. And finally, when I got out of that, well, I had loosened it up. It itched so much that I used to run sticks and wires down there to scratch it, you know. But I got over that, and I stopped to think there's got to be a greater power to let me play the athletics that I did with all of those things wrong with me.
It's pretty amazing. Do you want to say anything about your high school teams?
Well, we didn't do that well. Every time I say that with my younger brother, who's at the audience now, Matt, I say, oh no, we beat Grand Junction for the first time. Grand Junction, that was 1951, and he comes out with all of the statistics, the yardage, you know, you only scored 3 points.
He said they beat you 15 to, or 17 to 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
So we
Nobody
couldn't,
gets to lie in the family.
we couldn't
No.
get anything past him.
No. But I enjoyed it, I really did.
Okay. Well, then after high school, Adams State University, right?
Right. It's when I went, it was Adams State College. We're a little bit smaller. But
It is a university now. Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a university.
Yeah.
yeah, I had one of my teachers take some clippings and a little bit of film to Ron Crawford, who used to be the Durango swim coach, went to Adams State and became the golf coach and the basketball coach. So they sent the stuff to him, and he called me a couple days later and he says, "You better get up here and visit." So, of course, we could get on the train and travel anytime we wanted. 7:30 in the morning, we'd go to Alamosa, get off. We'd come 7 in the morning, jump on the train, and come back to Durango. That was one of the fringes we got with my dad's working there. But I went and visited the college, and after it was all said and done, I was awarded an NCAA full ride, which were not given after 1952. So I was really lucky to just get in on the tail end of those scholarships, because I didn't pay a thing to go to school 4 years. As a matter of fact, at the end of my 4th year, when I was graduating for the BA, I got Ray started. He just got back from Korea. And I said, "I don't think you're going to make the team, Ray, but you ought to go, and we eat free for 2 weeks."
And in the meantime, let me just say that while he was off to college, I was working for Nichols Electric at the time, and so I decided to join the Marine Corps. And I did that for 3 years, and I always tease him about saving his life. But
That is impressive. That is
anyway,
really...
he was like a sophomore in college by the time I started as a freshman. And that's exactly what he just said was about me not making the traveling squad was what made me mad. And so I just had to prove to him that I could make the traveling squad.
And you did.
So I did. But we were both about the same size. He, of course, as I said before, was a running back in the backfield, and I was just a dumb lineman. But we're both the same size, and the coach could not tell the difference between us.
I got to tell you, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a handsome picture there? Yeah. Who are these two characters right there?
Great.
Ray.
My two sons, Tom and Andy, were also Durango High School football players, and they both did pretty well. Not as well as their dad, but, you know.
And
Incredibly well.
Isn't-
They're pretty successful.
isn't Tom
Yeah.
here tonight?
Tom's here.
guys-
Also a Marine, and he's a firefighter up in downtown Denver. So, and it's been really neat because, you know, again, touching on what Brad talked about, the families and the traditions that we have. We grew up, these guys grew up with Sam Maines, and our kids played. I played with Sam, the son, and then Tommy and Andy and my son Ben and Brady played high school. So there's just that tradition that has gone on.
We know there's another guy here that played football with you too. My dad's sitting right over there.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great.
I don't know how rough you were on him, but I don't think he's still forgiven you yet.
Okay.
Yes. But that, you know what? You got the swagger there. That looks really good. And you know what else? You still got it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your professional career. So this is you, Claire. Tell us about this phase of your life.
I was a counselor at Park School.
Principal.
Well, later on. That came later on after you earned your wheat to get up there. But I met one day for Arbor Day with the medicine man and President Jerry Ford. And it was my job to take him around, show him the whole school, and tell him about Durango. And we had a real good time. I enjoyed that very much.
Okay. And this is some of your professional photos. Ray, I remember these. Look up there, or right there. These are photos from Ray. I went through some of the high school yearbooks and found some counseling photos and coaching photos, and that was my freshman team photo. This is right. See that skinny kid? There's me. It was, like I said, you taught me great lessons. Tell us a little bit, how many sports did you coach for the Durango school system?
I coached, assisted in 2 sports in high school. Then I went to Jules Koss, many of you probably know him, invited me to start counseling at the junior high. So I was happy to do it, and I coached about 4 or 5 sports there.
Tell them which sports.
I did just about everything there. In fact, filling out government questionnaires, and Jules would like to hear that.
Oh, yeah, we'll tell him.
Yeah. And, but I did want to tell you a story before we kind of left college. He was, what was your number at Adams State?
20.
Number 20, I was number 10. And the coach didn't even know the difference between the two of us. And he was backfield and I was a lineman, as I said. And so we'd get in the huddle and we'd switch positions. And I'd tell him, well, what do I do this time? And he says, take a fake from the fullback and then run around the right end. I'd say, okay. So I did the best I could at that, and he was in the line, pretending like he was a lineman.
Getting killed.
Dumb lineman.
The coach had no idea that I was me and he was him anyway.
Okay, well, let's see. I got some of you here, Ray. I think this is from your coaching career. I mean, Claire. Claire, this is from your coaching career. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
After I graduated in 1956, I got the school in San Luis, Colorado. I don't know if any of you even know where that is. And the Catholic school, which was Mercy High School, had just gone broke. So there was this young man from San Luis, Silver Jaramillo, and he went to the State Department, turned Mercy High School into a public school. And so we had a high school there. They said, we got to have a football team. So he said, come on up and meet the board. And I had him right at $3,000 a year, which was very low because that was the poorest district in the world. So I got that money, did it for 1 year, and I won 1 game.
Now, the $3,000, that was for the whole program. That wasn't your coaching salary.
Right,
Okay, just want to make sure you know that. Did you buy all the equipment and everything with $3,000?
No, they had equipment
Okay.
that the college gave us.
Okay, great.
And of course, some of those kids never had an idea of what football was. So we had guys put the helmet on that were looking out the ear hole. We had guys that would say, Coach, I can't see very well. Well, he had it on backwards, you know, and the neck part came down over his eyes. And it was very, very, very
Learning experience.
learning experience for me, how to work with kids. And so, but we won that 1 game, and the whole school and the football team picked me up, and we marched down to the VFW, which was about 2 blocks away, and I don't even remember coming back.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, your grandpa was there.
Yeah.
He came to watch the game. We beat La Jara, which is right next
So
to
then he
us.
came to Durango, 1963.
All right.
64,
How many-
I came to Durango and started with assistant football, and my good friend Billy Dozier, God rest his soul, who just died not too long ago, and he said, please, please, I'll do anything for you, but pay you. And so I went to the first game was over Cortez, but before we left, he came into the gym, and everybody had their football stuff on, ready to go. And he says, Mr. Martinez has something to tell you. He was gone. We never saw him again till we got to Cortez. So I just went in. I said, guys, I'm kind of new at this because it was one of my first games. And I said, but we'll design a return kickoff, I said. And if we score on that play, I guarantee you we're going to win the football game. And you know, that all came to fruition. Mm-hmm. We went, we faked the ball going right, and the kid took it left all the way to the goal.
And a boy.
And Cortez, I might add, was the powerhouse in this area at one time. So to beat Cortez was a pretty good feat.
Right.
How many other sports did you coach, Claire?
I coached all of them.
Okay.
Wrestling. I even had two seasons at the same time. Track and baseball. Because both of us played ball at Adams. We played baseball. But football and basketball and track and wrestling. So 4 or 5. And I enjoyed all of them. It was just a lot of fun that I thought.
And it's hard to explain when people say, is that your dad? Or, you know, because they both coached the different sports, stuff like that. And then they were both teachers, they were both counselors.
Well,
so
there's thousands of kids in Durango, Colorado that are lucky to have had you here, that's for sure. And
Thank you.
and the legacy continues. Tell us, you weren't the first teachers in the family, or the last teachers, right?
I had, as I said before, 2 sons, Andrew and Thomas, who was here tonight. Who's this? And Andy played football. Tom played 3 of the sports, I think, but I don't think he wrestled. He played football and basketball. And as a matter of fact, Jerry was his coach, who cut him from the cut him from the program. Made us kind of mad there for a while.
And he's a teacher now, right? Andy is? Okay, and is he still teaching?
He's assistant principal.
no,
Oh, wow.
he was a teacher, and then he became assistant principal. He kind of followed in that tradition, and then he was the assistant principal at Riverview.
Right.
And then he just got a wild hair and got married, and they moved to Ghana, Africa, and spent 2 years in Ghana. And now they will be in Jordan. Is that right, Aunt Sue?
Right.
They'll be teaching in Jordan, so internationally.
There's a lot of service involved in your family.
Right.
And we're going to get to that in a second, but tell us just a little bit about your outdoor experience. There's a camping trip of yours. Is that Ray or Claire right there?
No, that's me.
Dad.
One of the things that our family did, including Jerry, of course, who was in our family, and we would
Felt pretty privileged.
walk down to the Animas River south of Santa Rita Park, and we'd get the big balloon, what do they call them?
Remember raft?
A raft, and we'd sail down about a mile, and then pick it up and walk back. And then 3 more would jump in. We'd go down. So we had a lot of fun there, and one of the other things we did was go up north to, what's the lake?
Hermosa. Oh.
Missionary Ridge.
Missionary Ridge up on
Henderson
top. We
Lake.
had a lake up there that we fished a lot. And we ate our own fish.
Okay.
They were good back then.
Yeah. I'm going to have some fish tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. But tell us about this. That's you, Ray, isn't it?
That's Claire.
That's Claire. Okay. I can't tell the difference. Okay. So, but you, talking of service,
He was there too, and we used to have, at the end of school, we would take a day off, and then we would leave and walk to 4 Mile Lake, which is way up on the high
Pagosa.
countries of Pagosa, back in there. I worked for the Forest Service for about 17 summers. And what it was a program. I had taken 64. I took all my family down to California. We went to the zoo and fun lands of all sorts. And when I got back, of course, I was broke. I had no money and no job, and I looked in the paper and it says, U.S. Forest Service is looking for a person. That's all they said. And so I went in, talked to the district ranger. He said, well, this job entails taking your own pictures of programs you like. We will take you through the 7 districts in our area from Wolf Creek Pass to Cortez. So I went to each one, they fed me, they gave me pictures, they gave me information, everything about the Forest Service. So I came back and I made a program. I had 3 programs by the time I started. One was on mining, one was on recreation, and the other one was on all the districts.
Service is a huge part of the Martinez family. That's Ray on the far left there. And that's your Marine Corps outfit, right?
Right.
And is that your son, Ray?
No, that's my
That's
brother.
that's your son.
And then a picture of our Uncle Matt, was also in the service.
Yeah, and that was right before Vietnam, right?
It was the beginning of the Korean War.
Oh, the Korean War.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say, the summer after I graduated from Durango High School, a friend of mine and I decided to join the military. And the Air Force, which we wanted, was booked up. There was a lot of room in the Navy, but the Marines wanted us immediately. So we ended up in boot camp in San Diego.
Right. And this went right on down to the next generation, didn't it?
Right.
So
No.
both Uncle Ray's sons, Tom and Andy, were both Marines. My brother was also a Marine, and then my sister was in the Navy.
Service is really huge to the Martinez family, and you know, there's someone else who's done a lot of service for this town too. Did you know that? Thank you, Jerry. He's been a huge part of the Club 100, of which my dad is also a founding member of that. I hope you don't mind me giving a shout out, but he helped start this series. But we are so proud of you guys and your family. I mean, this is just amazing what you've done. And I know your family, these are just a couple of family shots. We don't have time to go through all of them, but the family is so important. I think you've just been an amazing example to our town, and we're so glad to have you here tonight. I'm going to kind of flip these kind of quickly. There's just some great pictures of your dad and you guys. But one thing I want to tell you about in these modern times is that I posted your picture and told your story on Facebook a couple of days ago. And the comments, Facebook is this thing on the computer. It's just amazing. It's a complete waste of time, except when something like this comes up. But I have to tell you, the number of comments that were coming in talking about how you affected people's lives are just outstanding and just so heartfelt. And there's a couple of them there. I'm going to read that myself because this is really important. John Arabito said, Ray was the all-time best coach leading the St. Columbus 6th grade basketball team to the city championship in 1963. And separate from that,
right.
Patricia Machado, who was in my class in high school, class 73, said, I love both Mr. Martinez. Ray was a great counselor. He taught me the importance of college, especially at a time Chicanos, and especially Chicanas in Durango at that time, were not encouraged to go to college. Claire was my favorite Spanish teacher. So I just have to say, as we wind this thing up, that you are just a complete inspiration to all of us, and it just would be so cool to have some sort of little extra recognition. I don't know if anybody here has any ideas, but it's certainly well deserved.
I've got some.
Oh, who is that?
Oh, Dr. Snowberger.
I'll be darned, it's the school superintendent. Hey there, come on up here. It's Dan Snowberger, the school district superintendent for 9R.
They stand out.
Let me give this to you.
We started something this year recognizing that, we've got amazing people. We have 750 employees in the school district that just do amazing things for kids. And they're inspired by people like Ray and Claire. who made such an impact, and we saw some of that on Facebook. I can tell you, I've talked to teachers who remember Rey and Claire, and they remember their rooms being freshly painted because of something that Rey and Claire would do over the summer.
Right.
They remember coming back to their room freshly painted because of these two gentlemen who gave of their time during the summer to make our schools look great. So we started something to recognize this just actually a month and a half ago. So this is the second and the third one we're awarding, and it's called the Legacy Award. And it's recognizing that people like Claire and Rey really made us what we are today in Durango as a school district. And so it's with great pleasure that I present both Claire and Rey a Legacy Award. It talks about their service to the district. So
thank
Claire,
you.
Thank you
Stand
very
up.
much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Beautiful.
You misspelled my name.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good Durango Native story. So we'll bring the light. Oh, do you want to say one more thing, Dan?
One more thing. I can't miss the opportunity to thank Claire, and I'm sure Rey had a lot to do with it, for this gentleman in the middle, who is just such an inspiration to our town and to our community. And so thank you both for giving us this